So it's more about the pink laptop. God wanted me to talk about the laptop, but it led into this, and now I understand why he wanted me to talk about it. But Austin was coming. He came out of the prison the first night. Well, we went and got him from Huntsville. I was so excited because I hadn't seen him in almost 2 years, and I took Melbourne to see him up there at the prison a couple of times, and he promised he would never hurt us again because he was hurting the both of us. I was pregnant and he was hurting Melby, and so me, Joseph drove, Cynthia was in the car, and me and Melbourne were in the back seat because we didn't take my white Grand Am. We took Cynthia's car, and she had got a new car because she wanted to drive Melby around, and she got rid of the truck, and we drove to Huntsville to go get Austin when he got out of prison. And it was July 18th, 2018, he was released, and I had his clothes washed. He liked to drink coffee. I tried to accommodate him in the house and make him feel welcome. And, Melbourne was so excited. And when we went and got him and he got in the car, Cynthia was telling him, Austin, just make sure you stay out of trouble and keep your nose clean. I guess because he was doing cocaine at some point, and Cynthia will always tell him, when she was telling him to stay out of trouble, she would always say, keep your nose clean. And I would always wonder what she meant, because he just told me about him shooting methamphetamine and heroin and sometimes smoking crack cocaine. And so she was saying, keep your nose clean, and he started yelling at Cynthia, like, I don't need you to tell me to do this, I don't need you to tell me to do that. And that was the first warning for me that he had not changed. God had already showed me visions that he was going to come in the house attacking us, and that he was demonic. And so I asked Austin about the visions that God showed me about him, and he said that was the devil, and that he wasn't really like that, and that he changed. And so he came in the home, but he was yelling at Cynthia in the car, and I said, Austin, don't talk to your mother like that. And I always took up for Cynthia, like when he tried to stab her with the butcher knife November 2015, when he got banned from her home. And then so he was saying, like, Cynthia, I'm a grown man, don't tell me what to do. And I knew that if he was talking to her like that he was going to start abusing me again, because he wasn't even showing respect to his mother on the ride home from the prison. And so he had a little check that they gave him when he got out of prison. It was TDC Huntsville. And when Cynthia brought us to my home, her and Joseph came inside with me, Austin, and Melbourne, my son, and he was 20 months old when Austin got out, and we got settled. We got Austin settled, and Austin wanted to go and buy a pair of new shoes, and Cynthia put the money on my card because they never wanted to give the money to Austin because of his drug addiction. Like, they tried to say, oh, I smoked weed, but no, I took care of business. I washed the clothes. I went grocery shopping. I handled the business with the money, regardless of whatever money they try to say. I did a little something for myself with $25, like I never hardly had money for me. And so I did what I was supposed to do for the house. I took care of everybody. You see pictures of me with Mel at the laundromat. I could have been out smoking crack or shooting meth and stuff that Austin would have did with the money, but I did the right thing. That's why Cynthia and them trusted me with the car. That's why they trusted me with my apartment. It was in my name, but that's why they trusted to help me. Austin would have had drug dealers in the house. He would have had people, just stupid shit. And so I did not mess it up. The house was still standing. The car was still working. The baby was doing great. We had clean clothes. We had food. And so when Austin came in the home, Cynthia and Joseph left out of the house. And after they left, it was me, Melbourne, and Austin. It was still daytime, and Austin was like, I want to have sex. And I didn't want to. I just did not want to have sex. And I was trying to work out and get my shape back because it seemed like my stomach hadn't really gone down all the way. And, I was still kind of chubby a little bit. From birth and just eating a lot and breastfeeding. And so I told Austin I was tired. I said I wanted to get to know him and reconnect with him and be romantic and get the relationship back established in righteousness before I just gave him my body, because we didn't talk on the phone. We only talked through letters, and in all the letters he was just begging me to take him back and promising that he wouldn't abuse me anymore. And I wasn't really ready to do that. I wasn't ready to take him back because I wasn't sure if he really had changed. But Cynthia was pressuring me because her and Joseph were helping me and my son, and she was asking me not to go through the state to get any help, because she was saying that Austin would go back to prison and that they would want back child support. So she forced me to have to get my assistance from her and Joseph, and it became very controlling because then I had to let Austin back in the house, and I didn't want to do that right away. I wanted to make sure that he changed and got counseling before I let him back in. And it was like I was being forced to let him back in my home. Even though I loved him and I wanted to be a family and I wanted to make it work, I still was second guessing letting him back in right away. And he was saying, I want to have sex right now. And I was like, well, can we just talk and go to dinner first and spend some time with our son and reconnect, because I don't feel ready to. And then he forced me to. And the first day he forced me to, he took off my clothes and forced me to, and I didn't enjoy it. And then so after that, I did consent a couple of times, and I was trying to enjoy it, but I was just kind of screaming because he was hurting me. And like he was making me call him daddy and all that kind of stuff, and making me get in positions that was hurting me. And it hurt me bad. And then, so one day we were in the bed, and I told him, touch me like this and touch me like that, so it could feel good to me. And then that time it did feel like we were making love. And then he started to cry and told me that he loved me. And then I told him that I loved him too. And that was the only time that it didn't hurt. And then so I got pregnant. But before I go into me being pregnant, I want to tell you about the night that he got out of jail after he made me have sex with him. I wanted to take Mel so that we all could have family time and get something to eat. And we went to Applebee's in Conroe, Texas, and I drove. Austin didn't have a license, and I was taking him to classes to help him get his license. He had to go through a drug class because the courts they suspended his license about marijuana. He had got caught with an ounce, and he kept getting in trouble, so they suspended his license, or they suspended him from being able to have one. And then I was taking him to drug classes so that he could get his license. So I had to drive, and sometimes he would take the car and drive it, or whatever. But back to Applebee's. So I drove us to Applebee's, and when we got there, he started ordering drinks, and he just kept ordering drinks, ordering alcoholic beverages. And I ordered one to celebrate with him being home. And all I needed was one, and he took my drink and drank my drink too. And then he kept running to the bathroom saying he had to boo-boo. And I made him get tested before he came back to the house when he while he was in prison, and there were results that were missing. And I said, where is your results for the herpes and for AIDS? I had visions of him having sex with other inmates and giving them oral sex and letting them sodomize him. And so I asked him to get tested for HIV and for herpes. And so when I came to visit him one time with Melbourne in prison, he had a stack of papers from the medical infirmary saying that he got tested because I told him I would not take him back if he did not get tested. And all of the results said negative, but 2 results were missing. And it was the results for HIV and the results for herpes. And I asked him, where are the results for the HIV and for the herpes? Because me and Melbourne did not have herpes or HIV. And so I didn't want him around us if he contracted it in prison. And so he didn't have those results, and he told me, well, the nurse told me that I'm negative for herpes, and the nurse told me that I'm negative for HIV. And I said, well, why aren't the papers here to show me that? And then he said, well, she didn't give me the papers for that. She just told me verbally. And I loved him. So I believed him. But I knew that he probably wasn't telling me the truth. And so in the bathroom at Applebee's, he kept getting up from the table and saying he had to boo-boo and run into the restroom. And he ran back and forth and kept coming and getting drinks of alcohol. And then in the prison, they violated him, saying he was passing out off of homemade liquor in the prison. And so he was sick at the dinner. And me and Melbourne were eating our food, and Austin was running back and forth to the bathroom and consuming alcoholic beverages the entire time. And he hurried and ate his food very fast like an animal, and he wasn't treating us with respect or love. He wasn't acting like a decent human being at the dinner. And then he tried to drive us back home drunk. And I said, no, I'll drive us. And so I drove us back home. And when we got back to my apartment, because it was still my apartment, he was only there for one day, and there was a trial error. I told him if he started hitting us, that he would have to leave immediately, because Austin hit me all the time. Austin abused me every other day. Every other day when we were together. So he kept abusing me in front of my baby too, and then he tried to abuse my son. And so that first day that we came back from the dinner, when he got out of prison, he was drunk. And then he said, Andrea, I want to go to the liquor store on the way home. And I loved him so much, and I didn't want him to feel like I was trying to take his manhood from him or trying to treat him like a child. But I had rules, and that was that I did not want him drinking alcohol because he got extremely violent. And so Melbourne had not been around any violence since Austin went to prison, and he was such a bright little boy, and he was so happy. He had his little ponytails running around playing, and he had the brightest future. And he didn't have the same life that I had. My mother was abused in front of me, and it traumatized me. As a little girl, I was always afraid because of seeing her be abused. So to see Melbourne, this happy little child, I wasn't like that at 2 years old. You know, I was very quiet, and I was neglected. The abuse started with my mother when I was like 4 or 5. But when I was 2, I was neglected. I would wake up asleep on the floor in the middle of the night. I don't remember my parents making me dinners or breakfast or lunch. I don't remember getting bathed all the time. I don't remember being loved, and I did not treat my son like that. I cooked him breakfast at 6 a.m. every morning. I cooked him lunch. I cooked him dinner. I played with him. I took him outside and played with him. I read him bedtime stories. I did everything to make sure he didn't feel the way that I did. And so, Austin, he wanted the alcohol. And Melby was smiling and laughing and dad. And I could see that Melby was about to be traumatized. I raised him the whole 2 years, bright. Took him to take pictures at JCPenney. He had portraits all over the wall. He was like a little Princeton boy. He was like a boy that was very prestigious. He was a good kid. He was loved by the whole neighborhood, like every day he woke up smiling in the morning. He was a great child. And Austin wanted to get alcohol around him, and I knew what that was going to bring, violence around this little boy, and I knew that it could traumatize him. So I said to Austin, I was like, Austin, I don't think you should get any alcohol. He was like, come on, Drea, come on, it was a liquor store right there on Fraser by our house. He was like, come on, Drea. Come on, just let me get one bottle. Come on, Drea. And I won't ask you for no more. Come on. And he had just got drunk at the Applebee's, so we were on the way home. And it was his first night out of prison, and I know a lot of men like to drink. So I said, well, just one little small bottle, and that's it. So he went and got the bottle of alcohol. And then we got to the house, and he wanted me to drink